The stone walls still whisper their dark secrets. Behind the rusted iron bars and crumbling concrete corridors lies a chapter of World War II. History that few dare to explore. The notorious dungeon prisons that held both military and civilian prisoners during humanity's darkest hours. In the depths of these underground chambers, thousands of souls endured unimaginable conditions. From the maze-like Colditz Castle in Germany to the dank cellars of Fort de la Chartreuse in Belgium, these facilities were designed not just to confine, but to break the human spirit. Take the infamous cellular jail of Paris's Fort de Romainville. The prisoner's daily routine was an exercise in psychological warfare. Wake-up calls came at 4:30 a.m., when guards would slam their batons against the metal bars, the thunderous clanging reverberating through the stone corridors. A breakfast of watery soup and moldy bread barely provided enough sustenance to keep prisoners alive. Many developed severe malnutrition, their bodies wasting away in the perpetual darkness. But perhaps most notorious among these underground hells was the Mauthausen-Gusen concentration camp complex in Austria. Its quarry prison, carved into solid rock, descended 186 steps into the earth. Prisoners called it the Stairs of Death. Forced to carry heavy granite blocks up these stairs, many collapsed from exhaustion or were pushed to their deaths by guards. The psychological impact of underground imprisonment was devastating. The psychological impact of underground imprisonment was devastating. Former prisoners spoke of losing all sense of time, of feeling buried alive. The constant darkness, the suffocating humidity, and the sound of distant screams created an atmosphere of perpetual terror. Some prisoners scratched markings into the walls, desperate attempts to track the passing days, or perhaps to leave some testament to their existence. In the Colditz Castle's underground cells, Allied officers who attempted escape faced particularly harsh treatment. The cells, carved into the castle's bedrock, maintained a year-round temperature of near freezing. Prisoners were often stripped of their clothes and left with only a thin blanket. The complete isolation and darkness drove some to the brink of madness. But even in these depths of despair, the human spirit proved resilient. Prisoners developed intricate communication systems, tapping messages through walls in code. They created makeshift calendars, shared precious food rations, and told stories to keep hope alive. In some prisons, inmates organized clandestine education programs, teaching languages and sharing professional knowledge in whispered conversations. At Fort de la Chartreuse, prisoners carved tiny chess pieces from breadcrumbs mixed with water and ash, playing games on boards scratched into cell floors. These small acts of defiance and creativity helped maintain their sanity and humanity in an environment designed to strip both away. The guards themselves were not immune to the psychological effects of these underground prisons. Many reported experiencing nightmares and depression after prolonged exposure to the dungeon environment. Some requested transfers, unable to cope with the constant darkness and the sounds of human suffering. As the war progressed and Allied forces advanced, many of these underground prisons became sites of desperate last stands. Some facilities were hastily evacuated, with prisoners force-marched to other locations. Others became mass graves as Nazi forces attempted to eliminate evidence of their crimes. The liberation of these prisons revealed scenes that haunted even battle-hardened soldiers. Allied forces found emaciated survivors in various states of physical and mental deterioration. Medical teams worked tirelessly to treat the complex health issues caused by long-term underground confinement, from severe vitamin D deficiency to respiratory diseases bred in the damp conditions. Today, many of these sites stand as memorial museums, their dark corridors preserved as testimonies to human suffering and survival. Visitors can walk the same paths where prisoners once The stone walls still whisper their dark secrets. Behind the rusted iron bars and crumbling concrete corridors lies a chapter of World War II history that few dare to explore. The notorious dungeon prisons that held both military and civilian prisoners during humanity's darkest hours. In the depths of these underground chambers, thousands of souls endured unimaginable conditions. From the maze-like Colditz Castle in Germany to the dank cellars of Fort de la Chartreuse in Belgium, these facilities were designed not just to confine, but to break the human spirit. Take the infamous cellular jail of Paris's Fort de Romainville. Shuffled in chains, though the full weight of the horror these walls witnessed can never truly be conveyed. The psychological impact on survivors lasted long after their liberation. Many reported recurring nightmares and severe claustrophobia. Some could never again sleep in complete darkness. Others struggled with what we now recognize as severe PTSD, their minds forever marked by their time in the depths. Yet perhaps the most important legacy of these underground prisons is the testament they bear to both human cruelty and resilience. In the darkest places, under the most horrific conditions, prisoners found ways to maintain their dignity and humanity. They formed bonds of friendship that lasted lifetimes, shared precious morsels of food with the weakest among them, and kept alive the flame of hope when all seemed lost. As we stand now in these preserved spaces, the weight of history presses down like the tons of earth above these dungeons. These sites serve not just as memorials, but as warnings, stark reminders of humanity's capacity for both unspeakable evil and remarkable courage. In remembering these dark journeys, we honor those who suffered and died in these underground prisons, while recommitting ourselves to ensuring such places never exist again. The stones may still whisper their secrets, but now they speak not just of darkness, but of the enduring strength of the human spirit, even in the deepest night of war.